Good evening, friends, and welcome to a live broadcast, Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. You know the drill. We're retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. If you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, you're in the right spot. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get all things DutyRon and this guy, my partner in crime, Ed Wallace, when we go live or upload another video. Hey, tonight we got a lot to unpack. Um, Ransom note that confirms Nancy Guthrie's death. I wouldn't consider it a ransom note because the actual second note didn't ask for anything. It just basically said that she died in the process of being taken from that home. And again, I want to know what you guys think because, we're giving you the police detective's perspective. We want to know what the true crime perspective is. Do you believe these ransom notes? Do you think they're just fakes to throw things off? Or, as the FBI said, they take it pretty seriously because there's some things that we will talk about that were inside these notes, like certain information that only the kidnappers, only the people who were inside Nancy Guthrie's home would know. But before we get into that, I want to say a thank you to our Patreon supporters, the channel members, the moderators, the replay viewers, and all of the folks who positively engage here. This is what makes it a great community, and we appreciate you guys. Ed, your thoughts on what came out yesterday? It seemed like I had deja vu. It seemed like 4 months ago we were talking about this, no?
Oh, yeah. When the family held a press conference and uttered the words after this press release got to them, it was apparent to us, you and I, that it sounded like the mother knew. I'm sorry, that Savannah knew that Nancy, the mother, was dead.
Yeah, she made mention of celebration of life and all these other things that you and I both pointed out in that live stream on February 8th that we did.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the words were telling, and not having seen the note, not knowing the content of the note, not having the content of the note released as to the press back then as it is today now, through again sources. No one officially has said that was the content, but unofficially, we have all these law enforcement sources talking to various press entities and saying, yeah, that in fact was the case.
Yeah, and we heard from many different bona fide news outlets, and our good friend Brian Enton, News Nation, all the different local stations, and then you have TMZ, which I'm not even going to get into it here. And TMZ made a statement early on that they weren't going to talk about these emails. They're not even notes these aren't letters that are mailed into the station. They came via electronic means, and they knew that the note email 1 and 2 came from the same person because they used the same IP masking service that was used in the first one. So this is how, according to sources, the FBI made a determination that it was the same people, and that it was believable. They had certain details about the inside of Nancy Guthrie's home where items were placed, like an Apple Watch. They also said that they knew the clothing that Nancy was wearing on that night, and they talked about a broken floodlight camera in the back of the property. So those are things that why the FBI and investigators believe the note to be authentic, and they believe it. That doesn't mean that it's 100% true. And again, there's a lot of information that we're not privy to and that we shouldn't be privy to. But let's listen to Savannah on Today's show this morning. It was heart-wrenching. Ed, I don't know if you saw it, but let's take a little listen at what she had to say this morning with her co-host. There was I think 4 people up on the panel with them, which is pretty customary, and it really it was heartbreaking. So let us know what you think in the comments section when we play this. Here we'll go full screen with it.
New details coming out regarding the ongoing investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. According to 3 people familiar with the matter, the second of 2 notes sent to media outlets from an alleged kidnapper following the 84-year-old's disappearance indicated that Nancy had died. The note made no further request for money. Shortly after it was sent, Savannah and her siblings sharing this video, speaking directly to whoever took their beloved mom.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
That second note coming days after media outlets received an initial alleged ransom note indicating that Nancy was safe and demanding $6 million in Bitcoin in exchange for her release. NBC News has previously reported on both notes, but the contents of that second note have not been made public until now. Investigators involved in the case believe the notes are potentially credible, a sentiment shared by Savannah during her interview with Hoda.
I believe the 2 notes that we received, that we responded to, I tend to believe those are real.
Who's behind those notes is still unknown, as is the identity of that masked armed man captured on Nancy's doorbell camera in the early morning hours when she was taken. Savannah recently opening up to Jenna about the agony she feels every day.
I cry every morning on the way to work and I cry every morning on the way home. And I'm grateful to have good friends and to be able to come to such a beautiful and joyous and supportive place. And like so many people out there, you know, you can hold all of these things together. I try to tell my kids that too, you know, we can hold our sadness and we can hold our joy. And just, if you don't believe it, just watch me. I'm going to show you.
And despite these new details, unfortunately, Craig, there is still no major update or break in the case. Investigators are still searching for that masked man and trying to find a match with some of the DNA that they uncovered at the home. Craig.
All right, Liz Courts Force there in California. Liz, thank you. The bravery and courage with which you have done that.
So this is this morning. And again, I don't know how she goes to work, but everybody processes grief and stressful situations differently. Some people like to stay busy. I'll put us back on for a second, Ed. You know, I see a lot of people in other chats and over here saying, you know, how is she showing up like this to work? With her mother, nobody knows what happened to her. They know that she more than likely, like someone asked today, is there a possibility of hope that she may still be alive? You can always hold on to hope, but reality is that, you know, we're going on almost 5 months. At the end of this month, it'll be 5 months in July. So a full 5 months and without medications and so forth. And remember, she was bleeding. Ed, we talked about the blood. We're gonna get into some of the crime scene stuff tonight here with our audience. But you know, like I don't question any victim's families on how they act or what they do. At the end of the day, if you stay busy, it's kind of like moments to take your mind off of it. Your thoughts, Ed?
Yeah, you know, I don't wish this on anybody, boy. I mean, this is such a tough place to be, dealing with all of this. And, you know, I'm sure, you know, after they got that second communications, they realized that their mother was, in fact, likely dead. And she's been dealing with this, as you said, now it's going on 5 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And she's back at work now. You can see her on TV, and she's putting on a strong face for the world to see. And she's trying to stay strong. And I can only imagine what the rest of the family is doing and how they are acting and dealing with this. And it's just horrific. And she is a picture of strength, though. I will give you that. You know, she's putting on that strong persona for the world to see.
I don't know how she does it, but God bless her for the strength that she's exhibiting here. I'm not quite sure if I'd be able to do it. But this is in New York. This is where the show is broadcast. There's an NYPD sergeant right up here in between the two of them. And that's the windows leading right to outside. People can just come up and watch the show. So let's let this go, because it gets really heart-wrenching here, because she starts to lose it. Her voice starts to break. They all move in closer and try to support their colleague and friend.
This job every day since that happened. Nothing short of remarkable.
Wow.
Nothing short of remarkable.
I love you guys, and I love this place, and this is unusual and unprecedented, to say the least, to be sitting here. But you know, I don't have any comment on the story, and I'm not involved in our coverage. But I can't pretend I'm not here. And so since I am, I wanted to just take the opportunity to ask people, to beg people to come forward. Somebody knows something. And this is a news story today that is on your radar, but this is the life that my sister lives, that I live, that my brother lives, that our extended families live, that our children live every day. And we are in agony, and we cannot be at peace. So no matter how much I try to come out here every day and smile and find that joy, and I will, I promise I will. This is a moment to tell you that we need your help. We're begging for your help. And I'm not going to miss that opportunity. And so please, if you're watching,
Yes.
no matter how small, the reward is there. You can tell us. It can be anonymous. Please do the right thing for us, for our family, for our children. And we love our mom, and we'll never stop looking for her. Never.
To your point, if you have any information, if you're watching, if you're listening, if you have any information at all that could help investigators and could help this family find just a modicum of peace, the phone number is right there on your screen. 1-800-CALL-FBI.
So she says, thank you. And that's where they end it right there. And I got to say, she had the wherewithal to take a moment, because she heard her say, I'm not involved in the coverage. She can't be involved. Conflicts of interest. Plus, you know, this is her mom. So, but she took an opportunity to look straight at potentially the abductors. And I'm almost certain, I would bet my pension on it, there's multiple, you know, more than one actors in this. And, you know, if you want to ask me what my opinion is and what Ed's opinion is, it probably wouldn't vary much. But at the end of the day, right now, it's just guesswork. But nobody grabbed this poor 84-year-old woman just randomly. There was some type of financial benefit. And if there wasn't a financial benefit, then it was somebody who has some deep hatred for Savannah and potentially the rest of her family. And just, you know, there are evil, mean people out there that would do something really nefarious like this to get back at somebody. So that's also a possibility too. We don't have access to the case file, and rightfully so. We shouldn't. And for all of the people who are saying, "Oh, release these emails, that could compromise the case, because only people that know some of these inside stuff about this case are the perpetrators and the investigators that are investigating it." Ed, thoughts on that one?
No, I 100% agree there. You know, they should, the public and you and I, we should not have all these facts yet. I mean, this is still an open case, okay? And if we're to believe everything that we know now, it's a murder, right? It's a kidnapping, abduction, murder, burglary, all of these crimes. And somebody has to be identified and held responsible for them, okay? And so, yeah, we shouldn't, there's no statute of limitation on murder. Okay. So if it takes 50 years, 60 years to catch the murderer, that's what it takes. You know, so again, you know, we don't have a right to this information, and there's no denying it now, though. I mean, after multiple legitimate news organizations have come forward with this information that the family apparently knew several days after the incident. Okay. And they held on to that. You just think about that. She held on to that information. And, you know, knowing that in all likelihood, her mother was dead.
Yeah. And that's the thing, Ed, is that, she's being guided by what the FBI is telling her. Savannah is not an expert at this. Nobody should be an expert at abductions and things like this, and murders and investigating murders. She's just being guided by what she's being told. So for her to say, oh, I feel like these two email communications were legit, the rest of them were bogus. That's what she's being told by either the FBI and or Pima County Sheriffs. And I don't even think that she's speaking with Pima County Sheriff anymore. And I know I wouldn't. If this was my loved one, I'd be disgusted to the 10th degree, like we all are. We're all disgusted. People look and say, it's 141 days and nothing, we see no movement as it pertains to this case. We see no movement. Remember these images and pictures of Porch Guy and, the flubbing of the crime scene, the failure to take in the mat, FBI agents coming back days and weeks later while we watch pool people come and clean the pool shortly after this abduction / now we could classify this as a murder, even though they aren't technically classifying it as that. There's search warrants that they executed early on that we didn't see the returns of those search warrants. We don't know what the fruits of that labor was and what evidence they took into place, into custody. There's nothing. When we do the search warrants here in the city, unless it's court ordered, sealed, they get released right away after we do that return in a very short period of time. You have to come back to the judge who issued it and say, hey, judge, this is what we got. We're not hearing any of that because it's an active and ongoing investigation. Yes, it seems like cold, and the media, they have a job to do. They want to report on this on a daily basis. And I think that really this was unearthed because there's really nothing else to talk about. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. And I don't want to, I don't want to, force feed my opinion to anybody, but that's how I feel about this. And chat, you could let us know in the comments down below or in the live chat. It's every day I get a notification about Nancy Guthrie, but there's nothing new about it. It's just regurgitated stuff, right, Ed?
Yeah, pretty much. There's nothing new, other than the fact that, it's, I would say I would consider it a cold case at this point in time. Not to saying that no one is investigating it. I'm sure they're still working on it hard, and we don't know everything they know, and they're out there, dotting their I's and crossing their T's to the best of their ability. But it's just nothing is breaking. Nothing is breaking. And so her plea today, live on the morning show, was to get out there and say, hey, there's somebody out there that knows something. And she said this time and time again, but now that the fact that everybody now knows that the mother is allegedly dead, maybe that will shake someone's soul, rattle their soul, and maybe somebody can come forward and give up that information that will be the critical portion of this investigation needed to identify the suspect and grab that suspect and identify the location where Savannah's mom is. Yeah.
And, Ed, this February 7th is when she put out that video saying, we got your message and we understand, what you're saying. In that message, that second message, it says Nancy is buried with nature now. It just seemed a little odd and like not something that you would hear from hardened criminals or kidnappers or someone who had intent to, take an 84-year-old woman out of her home in the middle of the night. Using words like that seems like not just like AI, but something like feminine that was maybe, worded out by a female, or, maybe they had help writing this thing, but it didn't seem like something that you would get from kidnappers, from bad guys. Nancy is buried with nature, and, we didn't intend on hurting her, but yet we broke in and woke her in the middle of the night, took her out of there and possibly punched her in the face or hit her in the face or knocked her to the ground and she's bleeding from the face. I don't know. It just didn't, the whole thing didn't bode right with me. And I know the FBI is saying that it's legit. But I mean, we're not getting it from the FBI. This is what news reports are telling us.
Maybe those emails were written with the aid of AI.
It could be. It could be. So let's go to our chat quickly, because I do want to discuss with you, because for those of you who don't know, Ed Wallace is a retired crime scene investigator for the NYPD. He's processed over 2,500, arguably maybe more, 2,600 crime scenes in his time. He's got the exact number, but it's close to that. And that's a lot of crime scenes to process. And I figured we would take an opportunity to, maybe talk with Ed briefly about some of the missteps as it pertains to the Nancy Guthrie investigation from a crime scene investigator's perspective. Now, I know we visited this in the past, maybe 4 months ago, but it's no time better than now to revisit it as we're looking at this masked gun toting, bad guy on the front porch there with that flashlight in his mouth. And here, I'm going to put it back. The FBI put this out. This is all we have. A male, approximately 5'9", 5'10", average build, wearing a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker backpack. This is from the FBI. So I want to go to you, Ed, on your thoughts as a professional crime scene investigator on perhaps some of the missteps. And I'm sure there's too many to list here for this live stream.
Well, here's the deal, and we've said this in numerous other cases. You got to treat these missing persons cases, okay? Because remember, they didn't have that video of that suspect early on in the investigation. That came later. So you got to treat these missing person cases to a higher standard. Okay, and they're not given the criminal investigative standards to the criminal investigative standards of a murder, and they should be from the get-go. Okay, treat everything as a murder until proven otherwise. If it turns out not to be a murder, then no harm, no foul. But if it turns out to be a murder, and you missed all these critical pieces of evidence that were time sensitive, like DNA cooking in the hot sun, or whatever the case may be. There's no coming back from losing those types of evidence. We talk about the first 48, and I said again, I feel it's the first 24 hours. How many other cases did we highlight on this show where my wife went out for a ride on her bike, and I never seen her again. She never came back, and then you see how shoddily the bike was found and how it was handled improperly by the emergency responders, to the point that even the suspect was allowed to touch it, and it wasn't documented. Its position wasn't documented. It wasn't processed properly for fingerprints and DNA and hairs and fibers and all this stuff. The case I'm referring to, right? And how many other cases like that have we seen? Even in children, missing person children cases. Okay, we have to treat these cases to the higher standard, get full forensics involved as early as possible. Okay, as early as possible, so that we can avoid some of these items of evidence not properly being handled, destroyed, altered in any way, shape, or form. And so we give the best forensic workup we can on these missing person cases. And then if later it turns out, like in this case, the missing person was abducted and murdered, now we have solid forensics, okay, that in the first 24 hours, not days and weeks and months later, keep going back to the crime scene as new information gets developed you close the crime scene, you give it back to the family. Oh, we got to take it back. I'm sorry. Well, hey, the damage is done at that point. Okay.
Yeah, and I agree. And it was so frustrating with this. And I know for you as a, you demand professionalism and to the professional standards, crime scenes to be processed. And when you see stuff like this, and it's not just here, we see this across the United States. Canton was a prime example of that with the murder of police officer John O'Keefe in Massachusetts. But when you see stuff like this, where they leave a crime scene after a day, and now there's no exterior perimeter security, where
no safeguarding.
Yeah, just in case there's an oops or we miss something, what would it have taken for Pima County Sheriff to put a radio patrol car in that driveway with the lights on, with a good officer in it that's going to stop people as they come up to deliver pizza to live streamers, and stop people from coming up and taking video and pictures of blood, Nancy Guthrie's blood. I mean, if
what it would take is a different mindset. What would it take? What should it take is a different mindset about how you treat these missing person cases. Okay. All right. You got to get out of that. Well, she's an adult and, we don't have the resources to do this, and blah, 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 blah. All I hear is excuses. Hey, if the shoe was on the other foot, if that was your family member that was missing, I'm sure you would want all the bells and whistles.
Right. Yeah, of course. Anybody would. I mean, look, Savannah is a celebrity in New York here, and syndicated show, nationwide. Now she's worldwide known. That also tells the Pima County Sheriff, this Nanos clown, it should have told him, hey, I better be on my, dot my I's and cross my T's, not just because of that, but on every case you should be doing this, obviously. But he had to have known, and it didn't seem like he really cared, that he was going to be in the spotlight on this case. And the mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, and the lack of communication, because he was outed not only by the news, but by us, by people who have the experience. You have retired FBI agents talking about this guy. You have us, somebody like yourself, Ed. And I know, this sometimes gets, it kind of gets diluted when people watch from outside of the trade. I'm talking about just true crime enthusiasts watch. Who processes the most amount of crime scenes in the United States? The FBI or local police and state police?
Typically, it's the local police and state police in the larger jurisdictions. Okay, but in the lesser jurisdictions, smaller police agencies, the tiniest of the tiny, they'll typically don't have the forensic capabilities, and if they're not incorporated in town, if they don't have a contract with the state police or the county police, or the prosecutor's office doesn't have their own crime scene unit, they'll reach out to the FBI. But again, in the majority of the larger cities and law enforcement agencies, it's the locals.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is you have to understand the FBI is involved because this local small jurisdiction didn't know how to process. I've got the numbers right here. They didn't know properly how to process crime scenes, and shame on them. 2020, 16 homicides, 2021, 14, 2022, 15, 2023, 11, 2024, 13, 2025, 7 homicides, and in 2026, at the time I compiled this, 0. So in 6 years, there were 76 murders in all of Pima County, which is really nothing. And maybe some of those were like open and shut cases where, you had someone go when somebody went to somebody's house and killed them in front of a crowd, or, like an open, like a ground ball case. But
Yeah.
the
Well, the
reason
only way you ever get good at anything like that is practice. Okay, is experience, is the amount of work you do. The more work, the better you're going to be at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's say hello to a couple of our friends. Papa Smurf, the OG, is in the building. Schmitty is here. Hello, Schmitty. Good to see you. She says Nanos is bringing more distractions. I'm so tired of this bloke. Yeah, I mean, I think you're not alone in that statement. Barbara George, good to see you. Thank you, Heavy Hook, for being here. You too, Susie Q. Thank you so much for being here. Mama Sleuth is fed up. She's ready to be microchipped. So Ed, I wanna we did a post, and I this is probably unbeknownst to you, but I asked Kristen to do a post. What do you want most explained tonight here by yourself and myself? And the questions were why the details were withheld. That's the most common question that people want answered. Why are the details withheld? And I think we've addressed that. And then the second most was, why do investigators believe the note is authentic? And I think we pretty much outlined that as well. 24% wanted to know what happens next after this. And I think, Ed, you have the answer to that. It's an active and ongoing investigation. They're going to continue to run down leads. We talked last week about the Mexico searches. Those are searchers. The women outside of this country in Mexico were conducting multiple searches for Nancy based on anonymous tips. If an anonymous tip comes in and says, we have reason to believe that Nancy Guthrie was buried in an unmarked grave at such and such location, do you think that they just laugh that off? No, they run it down. They go out there. Some of it's a wild goose chase, but they have to do it.
A lot of it is, yeah.
What does this second note change as it pertains to this investigation? Well, Ed, I'll let you take it after this, but what it changes, in my opinion, is now we know that definitively what we thought 4 months ago Savannah Guthrie was talking about is that they've given up basic hope that their mom is still alive based upon the information in this communication. And it could be a lot more than what we are knowing about. It could be detailed information like, certain things on Nancy's body that would only know if somebody was to view it or to look at it. Not just the clothing and the Apple Watch that we referred to. It could be more. So, Ed, your thoughts?
Well, I'm a little disturbed by the whole process here. What's going on? I think what needs to happen here is we need to get a fresh set of investigators to come in like a cold case squad, a new set of investigators, new eyes, new questions need to be asked. Okay, find out what was done to this point, what wasn't done, identify what wasn't done, figure that all out. Let's start asking some fresh questions, get some new eyes on this thing, and see if we can't shake something loose here.
Yeah.
Again, I feel at this point it's a cold case.
Yeah, and they're not categorizing it as a cold case at this point officially, but they're not really telling us anything. So I mean, that to me as well, like when we talk to Sergeant Aaron Cross, he never really, because he doesn't communicate with the task force. But anytime I ask him, he said there's nothing new. So I didn't check with him before we went live tonight, but I certainly will check with him shortly just to see.
Now, I will say this too, if I may add,
sure.
That if we are to believe what was in that second communications with the family, then the mother is buried somewhere.
Right.
Okay. So that being said, the fact that Nanos is rejecting outside help like EquiSearch Midwest
Yeah.
and other trained entities that do these searches.
90 KJ.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is criminal to me. Is criminal if they know that from that, and they're trusting this as being authentic, and this person is saying, "Hey, she's with nature now." Making it seem like she was buried. Well, okay, you have that group from Mexico doing their thing across the border. Okay, we need our groups down there on the ground, searching the immediate area more thoroughly than has been to date.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Frito says, does anyone feel like she was taken to Mexico that night? And it's a 60-minute ride, 60 miles. So maybe you can get there in a little bit less if you're speeding. That's a possibility. That is an extreme possibility. So I want to just show you guys here. This is Good Day New York. This is here on the East Coast. They are talking about this case, and they're talking about the second email communication. So this is happening from East Coast to West Coast and everywhere in between. Let us know where you're watching from, and if your hometown or if your state is covering this. Is it being covered in the major cities, or is it being covered all over the United States? We definitely want to know. So let us know if you're hearing it on your local news. I know it was on World News tonight with David Muir.
Last time Nancy Guthrie was seen was January 31st. Since that time, no one knows where the TV host Savannah Guthrie's mother is.
But now there is new information concerning the second ransom note sent to media outlets. And Good Day's Haley Fixler joins us now with the latest on this case. Good morning, Haley.
Good morning, Tina Jashani. Yeah, that second note, we're now learning apparently what is in that note. But I want to start from the very beginning. Guthrie disappeared from her home near Tucson, Arizona, February 1st. She has still not been found. And this is a case that has really captivated the country because of puzzling circumstances. And again, now we are finding out that one of two notes sent to media outlets reportedly said that Guthrie had died. So here is what we know. Again, on February 1st, Guthrie was reported missing. She was last seen the night before. And over a week after her disappearance, the FBI released photos from her doorbell camera showing this armed and masked man outside of her home the morning that she went missing. That man is considered a suspect, but has not been publicly identified. Now, we do know of two notes that have been sent to media outlets regarding Guthrie's disappearance. Investigators had said that they were potentially credible. That first note said that Guthrie was safe, and it also demanded cryptocurrency in exchange for releasing her. But then another note came to media outlets, and that's the one that we are just getting those details on. The note, per multiple reports, allegedly said, quote, she perished shortly after she was taken, and quote, she is buried in nature now, and we are truly sorry. Now, not
many murderers say that they're truly sorry. That something doesn't sit right with me with that statement there. Just definitely does not seem, in my eyes, legit. Like, we're truly sorry. What are you sorry about? Are you sorry that you took her mother out of her bed and she is now dead? You basically killed her by taking her out of her house in the middle of the night. It just doesn't, I don't know, guys. Chat, let me know what you think. It just doesn't seem right.
Revisiting right now Savannah Guthrie's emotional social media videos from around that time.
If this is what is to be, then we will accept it. But we need to know where she is. We need her to come home.
Guthrie has not officially been confirmed dead. Investigators right now are still working to figure out what happened to her.
So questions come up in not just the chat, but Ed, in whoa, what happened there? Not just the chat, but on our website. I just checked it while we were listening to this. So some of the people are asking, and it was multiple people actually, they specifically asked this of you, Ed, at what point do they deem Nancy Guthrie as dead? And when can someone say collect on financials like a life insurance policy, if there was one, or something like that?
Well, that will have to be done in coordination with the medical examiner's office or the coroner's office there to make that declaration. Usually there has to be a specific period of time that we have a note here that law enforcement suspects as being legitimate, stating that in fact that she's buried in nature now, and that she died. We have the blood. We have evidence of an assault. So or an injury. Let's just say that too. So I give it another couple of months, and then I bet you the family can make an application to the medical examiner's office to have their mother declared dead.
In the state of Arizona, it says one has to be missing for 5 years, barring any special circumstances. Now, special circumstances could include the blood found at the location. We didn't hear much about, other than speculation and sources, about the interior of that home. We don't know if there was blood inside it, if there was sign of of a fight, was a nightstand knocked over. We don't know definitively anything about anything on the other side of that door. But a judge can make an application and an exception if that is presented to them.
Yeah, we did that with the World Trade Center.
Yeah, by proper authority. So 5 years under Arizona law on a regular person just goes hiking and comes up, never
with nothing else. I mean, we got a video here of an armed, masked person. We have the blood. We have whatever occurred inside. We have the communications, and everything is pointing in one direction.
Correct. And that's what would come into play here. So, I think people are asking this question, Ed, because again, I said, and many have speculated about this. Nobody just does this randomly. There's always some type of financial aspect to it, or there could be some type of grudge aspect to it too. So, but yeah, each state has different limitations in the time. But I looked it up as Ed was talking. Arizona's, it's 5 years. And a judge can make a special exception based on circumstances such as what we just outlined. All right, Ed, I want to wrap it up. There's really, people are going to go on and on and on and talking about this. We spent 45 minutes here. We tried to get some questions answered from the audience. Let's go quickly. Hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRon with your questions. I want to be fair to everybody, and I want to thank everybody for being here. So let us know what your concerns are on this second communication, the email communication. They used a mask your IP address. It's common. People do this all the time. Trolls do it. Creeps online, stalkers. They always mask their IP address, and that's what these people did. It's not making sense.
I do it too.
Yeah, I do it too, but we don't do it for criminal reasons.
No,
we do it for safety.
Do it for, operational security.
Correct. Yeah. So people are saying, what if it's not true? Can they call their bluff? Look, this is all sourced information, but like I said, the leaked source information says that note number 1 had certain details about interior of the home and where items were placed that only people who took Nancy would know, meaning they knew where her Apple Watch was left inside the home. Who would know that? It's just not a guess. You can't just guess that. They knew what kind of clothing and attire she was wearing. And I mean, who knew what exactly she put on to go to bed? I don't think that anybody from the Guthrie family would know what exactly 100% what she'd wear. They maybe could say, oh, she likes to wear this to bed. But in this first communication, they knew or they made mention of her wardrobe. So, and they also talked about the exterior camera being broken, a floodlight camera. And then that second email communication, which they said was they deemed to be legit, came from the same masking IP service and the same type of verbiage, it just in a little different light in the second one. So different emails, but they masked their IP address. And that was the Nancy is buried with the nature now and that whole spiel that we saw. Let's see. Eyebrows look feminine to me. That's what a lot of people are saying about this guy. So I don't see any questions, Ed. So I want to wrap it up. I want to go to you for final thoughts. What are we looking at next here? What are you looking for, Ed, as a crime scene investigator?
Well, as a crime scene investigator, I mean, I would be looking at all the forensic evidence, and I don't know what they all have other than some of the reported DNA stuff. I don't know. They obviously don't have the mat. I don't think they have any of the plant life that were manipulated outside the portico. I don't know what's inside. So, I would like to see all of that. First of all, how'd they get in? I want to know, was there forced entry? Do they have signs of a forced entry on a window, a forced entry on a door? Was the door unlocked? Okay, because I remember seeing the family saying the back door was found unlocked. Okay, so I'd like to nail that down. How did this individual get in there? Once you find out the point of entry, then searching around the point of entry is critical. Okay, whether there's soil, plant life, pollen, footwear impression in soil, mulch, whatever the case may be, you need to pull samples of all these different things, and you need to have it all analyzed so you have a record of it. This way, if you find a vehicle, if you find a suspect, and you can, well, right now, we're talking 5 months later, but still, there's still the possibility, depending on the cleanliness of the individual and or a vehicle, you might be able to link pollen, plant life, soil, mulch, whatever the case may be, from the areas around the point of entry, if that was the case. Are there tool marks? Like, was the window jimmied or was the door jimmied? Was there any signs of lock picking? Things of that nature. So, there's so many different things that I don't have answers to, but I would like to know forensically, and, if it was my case, I would be looking for all of these things, documenting all of these things, collecting all kinds of different evidence, and getting it to the lab for a whole host of forensic analysis.
Yeah, 100%. We discussed this many times.
And it's funny because, people say, "Oh, would you really do that, Ed?" Ask anybody I ever trained, and anybody that ever rode on a crime scene with me and watched me process a crime scene, and you'll know the answer to that.
And on our last live stream, I presented to you if the family was ready to hire you and you were allowed to go back into that house, because the house is not a crime scene anymore. They gave it up many months, 2-3 months ago. If their family was to contact Ed and say, "Hey, we want to contract you to come out here and process it," I asked him on a live stream, and he said, "Yeah, I would go out there and do a full forensic workup of that location. It wouldn't hurt to do that." Because I don't think people are living in there. I know people are coming and going, but
but here's what I would really do if that were the case. I wouldn't do it myself. I would go there and do a full forensic search. And if I found evidence, then I slam on the brakes and I'll call the locals, the FBI or the local crime scene investigators or the state crime scene investigators, who's ever assigned to the task force there for this case for forensics, and have them come out, okay, and show them, this is what I found. Now, It's your turn to document, collect, package, get it to the lab.
That's the right way to do it, instead of you collecting it up and having law enforcement come and do it. See, a lot of people wouldn't even have thought of that. They would just thought, oh, well, Ed's qualified to package it up and get it. But that's the right thing to do. All right, guys, I want to send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to the Guthrie family, to the investigators that are really looking to solve this case, the good men and women who are spending night and day working on this case. Mama Sleuth, go ahead, Ed. You want to?
Mama's asking, is it too late to find anything now? Well, I've talked about this in the past. I've gotten involved in hired by defense attorneys in one particular case, high profile case here in New York City, 18 months after the crime scene had been broken down, and revisited several critical parts of the crime scene and several vehicles involved in the crime, and found evidence 18 months later.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I pointed it out, and then the crime scene investigators would have to come out and document and collect and package and so forth and so on.
There you have it. All right, folks, I want to send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to the investigators, to the Guthrie family, and to everybody that's involved in this this debacle. Let's try to bring Nancy home and get the family to put her to rest. Again, I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you to the replay viewers. Thank you to the people who engage positively here. And let us know in the comments what you think, what's going on with this case. We don't like to fluff stuff. We don't like to present things that that we don't really have facts and fact-based information is what we try to talk about. So you're not going to get a lot of that fluff here and speculation on our behalf, because really in this case, that's what all we're left with is to speculate. So there's plenty of that out there, and there's plenty of places where you can get that. Here, we're going to just try to stick to the facts and the investigation as it unfolds. Thank you, Retta, for the $10 super sticker. You were the first super chatter tonight. Thank you so much. And Warning Moonrise, thank you so much for being a channel member. Appreciate you. Yeah, it's heartbreaking for sure. So again, we stick with the police and the investigators with the facts, not people who are out there doing stuff. And like Ed said, if he came across any evidence or information, he would call the FBI, call the people who are taxed with investigating the on duty working law enforcement, and have them handle it. This is not something for anybody other than them to handle. Isn't that correct, Ed?
Yes, it's an active case. It's an open case. Okay, it may be cold, but it's an open case.
Yeah. Anybody fumbling with evidence or anything of that sort, you're not helping. You're hindering this case. So take it from the professionals. Ed, again, processed over 2,500, arguably 2,600 crime scenes in his time. He knows a thing or two about this stuff. And that's not something that us regular lay people should be going out there and doing. You have something, or if you see something, say something, but say something to the FBI. Pima County Sheriff's ridiculous. I would stick with the FBI on this one. Thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. We appreciate you both for your honesty. Yeah, I'm not here to blow smoke up anybody's ass. Neither is Ed. That's not what we do. We're here to give you the facts and stick to what is true. We're not going to be making up stories. We're not going to be creating false narratives. We're not going to be doing anything like that, because that's not cool. It's not
here
cool.
To educate.
You're talking about someone's life here. An 84-year-old woman, a grandmother, a mother, an aunt, has been taken from a sister, has been taken from this world by somebody nefarious. And there's no time to be making up scenarios, stories, mockeries, scenes, causing scenes, and doing all kinds of crazy bullshit. People that do that should really take a hard look at themselves in the mirror. Ed, I want to thank you for taking out the time. I want to thank everybody for being here. God bless, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace and love from Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace.